So till Hey everyone. So till now we have talked about Spark streaming, right? And when we talk about Spark streaming, we talk about D streams. And when we talk about D streams, we talk about RDDs. And when we talk about RDDs, we talk about low-level operations. But we know from our previous experience that when we work with RDDs, we lose all the work what the Spark researchers did to create Catalyst engine, right? Catalyst optimizer or whatever, tungsten engine, different kind of stuff. We lost that thing since we are working with RDD. So if you remember when we were learning Spark for the first time, what we came to know that Spark SQL data frames, we have something here in between for Spark SQL and streaming. We have something called Catalyst engine here in between, somewhere sitting here. Then what that Catalyst engine was doing, it was reading the Spark SQL and data frames, and then it will go to Spark, this Catalyst engine, it will convert them into code, and then it will submit that code to Core API, and your work will be done, right? But if we work with RDDs directly, it will directly go to your Spark core, like Spark core indirectly is RDD only, right? So now the question arises, can we do something so that again we can use this Catalyst engine? Or can we use all the benefits what Spark SQL data frames or data sets are giving to us, right? But when we talk about Spark streaming, we don't have that thing in picture, right? But when we talk about structured API, what we had, now this diagram is more explanatory, right? So when we are talking about data frames or Spark SQL, we have Catalyst optimizer in between, and then your query will go to Spark core and the queries will be converted to RDDs. And this particular optimizer is doing a lot of things for you. Like for example, it is creating logical plans, it is creating multiple physical plans, it is using some rule-based optimization, it is using some cost-based optimization, and then it is selecting some best physical plan for you, right? But with RDDs, we don't have this Catalyst optimizer. We don't have even tungsten storage for us, right? So what these people thought of, that why don't create Spark streaming over this? So that Spark streaming indirectly will be converted to data frame API. Data frame API will be using Catalyst optimizer, and then behind the scenes they will be converted to Spark, right? And in Spark 2.0, they introduced a feature, or they introduced a new API called Spark Structured Streaming, right? So we had Spark streaming in Spark, I think in Spark 1 onward, right? And Spark 2.0, this is in Spark 1.0, and Spark 2.0, we have a new API introduced that's called Spark Structured Streaming, which is using data frame, Spark SQL, datasets behind the scene, which is using Catalyst optimizer. Simple, right? So this is a new framework or new API which is introduced into Spark 2.0. Okay, now let's see what Spark Structured Streaming is. So guys, don't get confused between Spark streaming and Spark Structured Streaming. So whenever you want to use Spark Structured Streaming, you need to tell that explicitly that we are using this. Okay, I will explain Spark Structured Streaming in a lot of detail, but one thing again, we need to make sure how we are using these APIs, Spark SQL and data frame API, how we are using, which context we are using, Spark session or Spark context. As if you guys remember, for data frames, for data sets, and for Spark SQL, we are using Spark session, right? And we are calling our Spark session as Spark, right? So we are using Spark session, and inside, again, I don't want to cover in a lot of detail. Inside this Spark session, we have other context like Spark context, SQL context, Hive context, different kind. But we know one thing from our previous lecture, that to use data frames, we need to go through Spark. Now, since we want to use data frame for Spark streaming, we need to go through Spark only. So the entry point for your Spark structure streaming will be Spark session, right? So now let's jump to theory part first. So we'll go to Spark streaming here, and let's see. So let me read it for you. So from Spark 2.x release onwards, structured streaming came to the picture, built on the Spark SQL library. Spark structured streaming is another way of handling streaming data. This model of streaming is based on data frame dataset API. Hence, with this library, we can easily apply any SQL query or any Scala operation with the dataset API, right? This is what I explained it. Since this is based on your Spark SQL, so we can use data frame operations, data set operations, and even SQL operations, right? Even low level operations. We can convert this into RDD, and we can go for low level operation as well. So again, anything what you have learned so far in structured API, Spark structured API, that is data frame dataset, will be applicable as it is here, as it is, right? Now, the question arises, how it is different from your structured API, or sorry, not structured, Spark streaming. Now, when we talk about Spark streaming, we talk about batches, right? We were talking about batches, and these batches are not real time. I mean to say they are near to real time, but they're not real time. It means there is a latency. There is a latency. This latency can be of 1 second and up to 1 minute, 2 minutes, whatever, right? So what we were doing in Spark streaming, we are converting our input data into batches first. Then we are calling these batches as G streams, and in every window we are creating RDDs, and then we are doing some operation on these RDDs, and then we're writing or whatever we are doing, right? But behind the scene, everything's RDD. And to do this, to convert this into D stream, into RDDs, it takes time. So we are calling it latency. Now, when we call, and this is what it explained here, in Spark streaming, this is what is going on. So we have a Spark streaming framework. We have input data coming. We are converting the data into batches. We are pushing the data into Spark engine, and then we have processed batches, right? So this is what is going on. Structured streaming works in the same way. There's no major difference, but what it is doing, it is inclined towards more real-time processing. So it means your latency is small. Your latency and your time latency is very small, right? The received data and the trigger is appended. Okay, before I go there, what we were doing in Spark streaming, we are creating these batches. We call them micro batches, right? We call them micro batches. When new micro batch come, we will consider them as a new batch, So it will be a micro batch 1, micro batch 2. If the new batch will be coming, it will go like this, right? So every micro batch is kind of independent of each other. Now, in the Spark structure streaming, since we are talking about structure here, what we are actually doing, we are creating a table here. So let me explain in a lot of detail now. So let's say we have our data flowing from this side, and it goes to your Spark structured streaming. structured streaming, right? So now when it goes through a structured streaming, and we are talking about structure here, what going on behind the scene, any batch or any data or any event, what it is structured Spark structured streaming is doing for you, it is adding each event to a unbounded table. Now what is unbounded table? So two kinds of table, right? One table which is predefined, which has equal number of rows and columns. But what unbounded table means, which has no boundary. As soon as a new event comes in, it will append that event here. And every event will be having kind of same structure. So now, since we have this table, we have a structure, we can perform any data frame, data set, or SQL operation. So this is one of the benefits, right? This is how Spark structured streaming is working. So we have an unbounded table, and the rows or events are appended to that unbounded table. This is what it is written here. So this is your data stream. And what it is going on, new data in the data stream is equal to new rows appended to the unbounded table. Data stream will be stored as an unbounded table, right? We already know a lot of differences between RDDs and data frame. All the benefits what data frame has, for example, Catalyst Optimizer, Tungsten Engine, easy to use operations, right? We can use high level operators. All the benefits will be applicable here. Now, one major difference, and that's the major difference really, and that's a game changer for Spark streaming, is event time processing. So there are two types of processing. When we talk about processing, it has nothing to do with Spark streaming or Spark structured streaming, but in any cases, there are two types of time. One is called event time, and one is called your event receive time or processing time. Let's say processing time. Event time means the time at which this event has generated at source. Generated at source. This means event at which the time at which event received as destination. Received at destination, right? And in, you can say in 99% of cases, there is a latency in milliseconds. Event time cannot be equal to receiving time. There will be latency because there's network latency in between, right? Now the question arises, which time we should use for processing? The answer to this question is, in 99% of the cases, we should rely on event time. And why? So let's say we want to process, or we want to count number of orders which have been placed between 10 to 10:15, 10 to 10:15 a.m., right? So let's say events are coming. Every order is event, right? So these events are coming. So this order is 10. This, let's say, is 10:10. This order is, let's say, 10:15. This order is, let's say, even 10:14. This order is 10:15. There is one more event in between, which is, let's say, 10:2. It generated at 10:2. So these four orders, let me change the color quickly. So these four orders, this one, this one, this one, and this one, reach the destination between this particular time, 10 to 10:15. Let's say you are counting the order every 15 minutes. Every 15 minutes, right? So in 10 to 10:15, how many orders really occurred? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But let's say these four orders have reached the destination in this interval. So 4 orders reached, but this particular order, which has occurred at 10:2, has reached the destination at 10:16. because of any issue, network issue, any issue, right? So what you guys, the result of your calculation is 4, right? In reality, how many orders have really occurred? 5. So which result is accurate, this one or this one? Obviously this one, right? But if you go with processing time, it will give you, okay, if you go with processing time, so what it will say, now let me tell you now. So between 10 to 10:15, it will say 4, and 10:15 to, let's say, 10:20, let's say 4 more event occurred, right? 10:15 to 10:20, 4 more event occurred in reality. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So these events occurred between 10:15 to 10:20, right? But we have one extra event which is from the previous batch, will be also counted here. So here it will say 4 plus 1, that is 5. So what your processing time or receipt time, this one is doing, it is giving results for wrong for different batches. So this batch is wrong, obviously it has 5. This batch is wrong, it is giving 5, but in reality it is 4. So we can, in this way, we have proved that if we go by event time processing. Now let's say we go by event time processing, right? So this is how receiving time processing works. Now let's say we go by event time processing. So in event time processing, there will be an event time attached to each event. So this will be into the metadata of the event, right? Even though this event occurred at 10:16, what it will do, since we are doing the grouping by event time, what is the event time? 10:2. What it will do at the next, whenever this event is received, it will update this count into the real window. So the real window will be 5 now. So 10 to 10:15 was 4 before. Once this event received, since the event time is 10:2 into the metadata, it will update the previous batch and will make the result as 5. And that's where event time processing makes lots of sense, right? And this is the biggest benefit of structured streaming. So when we talk about Spark streaming, we are talking about processing time. We are not talking about event time. But here we are talking about when we do the processing in structured streaming, we talk about event time. Now, since we are talking about event time, we can do a lot of things. We can handle late arriving data, right? If you want to discard it, let's say, obviously, let's say we want to define a window that we can receive or we can accept late arrive by 20 minutes. Let's say if we have an event which is event time is 10:10, we can accept this event till 10:30. Beyond that, we can remove it or we don't want to accept it. So everything, this kind of stuff can be easily done in structured streaming. Obviously, we will cover in a lot of detail when we do the practical, but this is, what we need to do. Okay. Now, one more thing. When we talk about structured streaming, it talks about exactly one semantic. Exactly one's semantic. So what this actually means, that what it guarantees actually, structured streaming guarantee that your data or your events in your destination will be stored exactly once, right? It won't be more than once, or it won't be less than once. And that's where exactly one semantics is very tough to achieve, obviously, but it makes sure that your destination will have exactly one semantic maintenance. How it is doing it, we'll cover it, but for now, let's see two things. What it says, to maintain the exactly one semantic, you need to have the source which can resend the data. Let's say your source sent 100 events at 10 a.m. and if your job failed at 10:05, we want to run it again. So we can ask the source that send me this 100 events again. So it means your source should be replayable. Your source should be replayable. The second thing is your destination or sink should be idempotent. Idempotent means it has the capacity or capability to handle the situation where it's given the same result. If it is given the same result more than once, let's say we are giving the same event more than once, it has the capacity, your source, so that it can delete it, or if it can delete either, or it can ignore the new one. So your source should be idempotent. It means your destination should have the capability, either it can ignore the new one or it can delete the previous one, but it should maintain only one row. Simple, right? This is what idempotent sinks means. So in more bookish language, the destination sink to which your job writes a result must be able to handle the situation where it is giving more result more than once. The sink must be able to detect such duplicate results. So this is what idempotent means. The sink must be able to detect such duplicate results and ignore them. Idempotent sinks can be called multiple times with the same data with no change of state. It means if data is already present and we are sending the same data again and again, it won't change the state, because obviously it is not updating the metadata. Since the data is already there, it will ignore the new data, right? So these are few benefits and the few features of structured streaming, right? Okay, so now let's jump to structured streaming in a bit. Let's jump to one of the practical applications, right? So for structured streaming, first of all, what we need the Spark context. No, Spark session. Spark context is needed for Spark streaming. For structured streaming, we need Spark session. So what we did, we created the Spark session, spark_session.builder.appname.master, and we know all these things. Ignore these two properties for 2 minutes. Let me comment that for a time being. And we say get or create, right? And then we know one thing, that, one second, if we need to enter to some data frame Spark SQL, we need to enter through Spark session. So what we did, in fact, let me write it down for you. So we'll say Spark, first Spark dot. Now, what we were doing in data frame, we are using read operation, but here we will be using read stream operation. Okay, and now the format can be anything. So we'll say format, and in format, let's say we want to read from console or socket. We'll say socket here, right? And then dot, we need to give host and port. So we'll say option, key and value, and the key will be here, your host, right? And the value will be here, your host name. So let's say host name is whatever, right? I wrote it down, but let's say your host name is localhost something, localhost, right? And then you say dot option. Again, you need to give the path because you are using socket operation here. So you'll say option, and you'll say port, and then you will say port, let's say anything, 55545, whatever. And then at the end, you are using load. In data frames, you're using load here. Simple. See how simple it is. If you learn data frame API with full senses, this will make full sense to you now. So let me repeat it. The same thing I have written here, spark.read stream. It means read the stream, read the streaming data from where? From this socket. The socket is made up of host and port, from this host, from this port, and load it. Now let me tell you one thing. Since we are using Spark session here, what this line should be? This line should be data frame, right? So let's see what this line is now. Perfect. This is data frame. So it means now any operation what we have learned as a data frame in the data frame lectures, we can use those operations with ease here. Super easy. Now let's see. So let's say we want to implement the word count program again, our favorite word count program, and using your structured API, right? When we talk about structured API, we talk about table, right? We talk about some structure. So let's say, in fact, before we do it, let's do one thing. Let's see how lines looks like, right? How lines look like. So let's comment this part. 1 second, let's comment this part as well for a time being. And let's comment this part as well. Let's see if that works. Okay, we just need to see how lines looks like. And if I start this program now, let's see. So it started, and we want to put the scheme of the line. Okay, since we haven't started the Spark application, so it will take some time. So, but this is what I wanted to prove, right? So our line, see, it's very simple. Did I give anything to it? Did it connect it to this line? No. It just, we haven't started our Spark streaming application yet because this thing is connected. What I wanted to show you guys, that when you read data from console, it will have one column, and the name of the column is value. It is of string type. And now if we want to do the word count program, what we need to do, what we are doing word count program, we do something like this, right? So any data which we are having, in fact, let me show you something else. So let's say we want to just write anything which is written on the console without any word count program, right? So let's do one thing, Control V. So what I'm doing right now, I have read the lines from socket, and I want to write those lines, same lines, into my console. Nothing fancy I need to do. I just need to write those lines, and I'll say wait for termination, right? Let's do one thing now. Let's close this. Let's run this program, and let's do one thing first. So we are reading this from 6448. Let's see if we have that port open. No, we don't have that port open here. Let's do one thing first till the program running. Let's open that port here. So what it says, that it is saying that the destination is not available. Okay, so let me show you the error first. Okay, complete mode is not supported. Okay, let it be. So I don't want to go for complete mode. Let's say I want to go for, I'll update this. Let's say update mode. Okay, and meanwhile, since it is here, let's run this. So I'll just log in quickly to this lab. Password. So this lab is nothing but a Sparks cluster, right? And what we need to open the port on 6448, right? Oh, it's already been used. So I'll say 6449. Now, since I have used 6449, let me update my code here, and I'll say 6449. Okay, and let's run it now. So don't worry with this complete mode, whatever mode, right? I just want to show you how it works, the word count program, okay? So now let's go here. So it is, what it is doing right now, it is connecting to this particular port, this particular socket, right? 6449, and on this particular host, and trying to read some value. So it printed this schema first. Now it will try to connect. And let's say if I write hello, how are you, and I hit enter, what it will do? It is failing for 1 second. Okay, I'll explain that to you, but let me refresh this 1 second, and I will explain this everything to you. But let me first run it, then I'll explain it to you. Okay. So what I did, I just deleted the checkpoint directory because I was running this program, and I just changed the modes and all in front of you, right? So what is going on, the checkpoint directory has the previous metadata, and we changed the metadata, and so it is still reading the previous metadata, so it got failed. Let's see. Perfect. So batch 0 has no value. Now let's write something. If it's working, we'll say, okay, this is working now, right? So we'll say hello, hi. So batch 1 is hi now, hello, hello, hello. What I'm trying to show you here, that for us, we have one column as value. Into that column, we have a string which is space separated. Makes sense, right? So now, if we want to count the number of words, we need to do the same stuff what we are doing. We need to split these words into tokens, then we need to assign something, and then we need to do some processing, right? So now let's go here. So what we have value as column, and then inside that value we have all the column values with the which are space separated, right? And since we are talking about data frame here, we can use our SQL operations or select operations here. So this is what we did here. So we say go to words on the lines, which is our the parent data frame or the first root data frame. On that, use this select, not this one actually, this one. Use this select expr, select expression, explode this data. Explode this data means what? Explode, what explodes to? I explained up to you, right? What explode will do? It will do something like this. So it will read the okay, before we go there, right? So what I'm telling this Spark, that explode the value column. Explode the value column on what basis? On splitting it. Splitting on what basis? Splitting on space. So what I'm telling Spark, that go to this line data frame, select the value column, split that column based on space, and then explode it, right? So this is, let's say this is the value column, and in which we have 3 hellos with space separated. What this the output gonna be? It will be like this: hello, 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 into 3 tokens. Simple. Okay, this is what this line is doing. Now what we are telling it, that yeah, so we are saying, okay, so we are telling it split that and name that column as word. Name that column, the new column, as word. Okay, so now, and finally what we are doing, we are saying and store that into words. So it is again a data frame. So what we did, we exploded the value column, named the exploded column as word, and stored that into new column called word, new data frame called words. Okay, and now what we are doing in words, we are saying group by word and give me the count. So same type of word, group them together and give me the count. So in this case, hello, hello, hello has 3 words, and what it will do, it will group them together and give 3 to us. Okay, and we store them into new data frame called word count. So this is again a data frame. Onto this bit data frame, what we did now, and now let me explain it to you. And let me put complete now here. Okay, so now I'll explain this update mode to you, don't worry. So what I did here, on the final data frame, on the resultant data frame, what I did, now write the stream to the console and maintain all the state information or in the state store of this checkpoint location. Okay, so this is good, right? And output mode is complete. We'll cover it in too much detail, but we are maintaining the output mode is complete, and then let's say wait for my signal to terminate this operation. Now let's see. So before we want to do it, we'll save it, right? And we'll go here and we will see the checkpoint directory. Since I have updated the complete mode and update mode, whatever, it will create the checkpoint directory. I'll cover this checkpoint directory in 2 minutes, but let me delete it first. And I say run it. At the same time, Let it run, and let's see how it's working. Okay. So first it will print the schema because we haven't commented that code. Perfect. It printed the schema. It said that the console has only value. Now what we did on code, we take that value, we exploded this value, and we converted that into a column called word. Then we counted that column with the same type of values, and we are printing those values here, right? So now let's say hello, hi, hello, hi, and I hit enter. Okay, let it run. It is waiting. Okay, it is taking too much time, right? And I'll explain why. Basically, this is streaming application. Can we wait this long? No, it should be real time. Or since I have already explained you in the beginning that it should be real time, or it's very fast. It is using Catalyst engine. It is using Tungsten engine. It is in a lot of things. But here we are saying that okay, it is taking too much time. Let it come, and I'll explain it why it is taking time. Okay. Okay. Meanwhile, let's see one thing till the time it is coming. Let's go here. Let's go here, and let's say localhost 4040. Okay, so we know one thing, that this particular job is your Spark data frame job, right? So once we are writing something, it is printing. Okay, it's active actually, so that we are not. Okay, so what we are seeing here, this is interesting, right? We are only doing some, we are just reading the value from the console, and we are trying to convert, calculate the number of words. But see what is going on here. It is saying that it has created 204 tasks for us, right? Did we ask it to create 204 tasks for us? No, but it has created 204 tasks for us. Do you know why? Because we are using our structured API here, or SQL structured Spark SQL here. What Spark SQL do for you, if you don't mention the number of tasks or number of partitions, it will create 200 partitions by default for you, by default. And now we only want to calculate this data. Only I think it's in bytes, right? 16, 17 bytes, or maybe let's say 20 bytes, right? And what this guy is doing, Spark is doing for me, it is creating these. Now it has completed 185 tasks, and it's still running. It means when the job will be completed, I'll show you. So let's see what it's doing. Okay, see this. What this guy is doing for me, what Spark is doing for me, it did this shuffling, right? It did the shuffling. Shuffling is okay because we are using group by operation. But when it was doing the shuffling, we only gave 4 different tasks to it. So we only gave 4 partition to it, right? So this is your first task. This is the first stage. This is the first stage, and this is your active stage. So we only gave 4 partitions to it. When it got shuffled, it created 200 more partitions, right? And that's where our job is taking so long. So it should be completed. So it is completed now, and our result should be here on our console. So it should be here onto our console. Okay. So actually, it is still not counting properly. It is taking too much time. Simply, what I need to tell you here, that this is not the right way of doing it, right? We need to do something into our code so that this stupid thing can be, rectified, right? So what we need to do, we need to control this number of partitions or number of tasks, right? So let's do it first. So let me first stop this application. Actually, it consumed all my resources of my machine, right? So let me stop this. I stopped it. Now let's go here. So what we need to do here, actually we need to tell after shuffling, whenever it do shuffling, how many maximum partition it can create. So I'll say something like this. I will say, when you are creating this Spark session, keep this thing in mind that whenever you are doing shuffling, when you are doing a Spark SQL shuffling, the maximum partitions you can create is 3. You can mention any number here. By default is 200, but since my data is very small, I'm just asking Spark that, okay, please keep these partitions as 3. Okay, so what the property is? Spark.sql.shuffle.partitions. Let's save it again. Let's do one more thing. Even I'm not sure whether we need to delete the checkpoint directory, but let's delete it. Okay. Refresh. Go here and delete it. And I'm deleting it. Now let's see. Okay, see how long it took for my checkpoint directory to do the calculation, right? To the deletion, because so much has been inserted into it. Now, when I'm running it again, I'm going here. So what it will say, let it come. It will be very quick now. Okay. So basically my job is in running state. So it should be here now in 2 minutes. So yeah, basically no exception because still not available. Now it's available. So let's refresh in 2 minutes. Yeah, still running. So what it is saying, 2 minutes, failed Spark. Please wait for your job is ready. So 1 second, guys. Yeah, so now it should be fine. Yeah. So now what we can see here, it only created 4 partitions were default, that is in my data. I have created only 3 partitions. So it means 7 partitions. And what it did, it has covered 4 jobs or 4 tasks out of 7. When I refresh it again, it will be 7 out of 7. So it means it is completed, right? And since I haven't given any data, let me give some data to it. Hello, hi, how are you? And let's wait. So it has created one more job. So what actually is going on, it is creating one job for each input. It is creating one job for each batch, I can say. So this is my first batch, this is my second batch. And for the second batch, it did the data for me. Now let's say if I just enter one more job here, right? So I'll say hi, 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 hi. Okay, and I'll say enter here. And if I refresh this page, I will see one more job, that's active job. So it means for each input or each batch or each micro batch, it is creating one new job for us in the Spark UI. And after shuffling, since we are using group by clause, after shuffling, it is creating 3 new partitions because I gave 3 new partitions here. Okay, that makes sense. One more thing which I need to show you. First, I gave hi, how, or hello, you, whatever. And next time I give hi again, hi 3 times, 4 times, right? So what it did, it is a stateful operation. It is maintaining the state. Where it is maintaining the state? It is maintaining the state into checkpoint directory. I'll show you in 2 minutes. And then it is giving us the result. So let's stop it. And let's refresh this and go to checkpoint directory, how it is working behind the scene, okay? Refresh. So we have our checkpoint directory here. Into our checkpoint directory, what we have? We have 4 fields or 4 inputs, right? So we have state, we have offsets, and we have commits. So in state, what it is doing, that I have given 3 inputs to it, 0, 1, 2. Into 0, it has 3 different files. Let's see how it looks like. Basically, somewhere in very raw format, it stored my data. I can't read it, right? But it is storing in the state, it's storing the data. See here, hi, and even here should be something. Okay, so it's storing it. And now, so this is what state is, right? in the offsets, what it should be doing, again, it is created 3 offsets for me for my 3 batches. And it is saying that, okay, this particular batch, the first batch start from 0, has this batch timestamp. And the important thing here, it has 3 SQL partitions, the version, policy, different kind of stuff. I don't want, even I don't know, but it is maintaining too much things for you so that when you insert a new batch, it get to read the offset and state, and it commits everything here. So it first committed into 0, that okay, next batch watermark MS is 0. Here it's again 0. I'm not sure, but this is what the 3-4 directories are: commit, offset, and state. In offsets, it's just maintaining till where it has completed the last value. In state, it is just maintaining which batch is completed, or which batch is running, which batch is failed, right? Kind of stuff. So let's close these things. So we know one thing, that we gave one config here which controls the number of partitions after shuffling, and that's very important, how fast it make our result, right? So in previously, when I haven't mentioned this property, it was taking too much and my whole laptop got hanged, because obviously it got too much resource intensive process, right? The second thing which I need to tell you is this one. So what I'm doing right now, every time when I'm changing something, when I'm stopping something, I need to delete this checkpoint directory, right? And basically, in production, do you guys have access to this checkpoint directory? I think no, because obviously you're submitting these jobs to the Spark cluster, and then you're not doing it. So basically, when your job got failed or your job got stop signal, ideally you want to start your job gracefully. You don't want your job that the data which has been already processed, it starts processing again, or the data which haven't processed in the current state when the job was failed, it didn't process the data. Ideally, what it should do, at the time when job got failed, all the in progress records should not be entered into the system. At the same time, they should not update your checkpoint directory. To maintain date, what Spark Streaming is saying, guys, please give me one property. The property name is stop gracefully on shutdown. Stop gracefully on shutdown. So it means when it receives the stop signal because of anything, please stop gracefully, and we are sending it to true. Okay, I have one article here. Let me read it for you guys. Okay, so once a streaming application is up and running, there will be multiple things to do to make it stable, consistent, and seamless. One of them is ensuring graceful shutdown to avoid data loss. In case of restarting the streaming application, deploying changes, etc., we have to ensure that shutdown happens gracefully and in the consistent state. It means once the application receives the shutdown signal, it should not accept any more data for processing, but at the same time, it should make sure to process all the data jobs for the current whatever. Don't worry about the Kafka topic in the memory. When application restart, it will read from the checkpoint directory and start getting the data from the checkpoint directory accordingly. Okay, so this is what the fully shutdown will do for you, right? Now let's go ahead and let's see. So now I was telling you guys that there is some append mode, their update mode, right? So this is what I was promising you that, okay, I will tell you in 2 minutes. So when you're writing data to some sink, there are 3 modes in which you can write data. The same, I think I have completed these modes as part of the structured API, but let's cover them here in some way. Okay, so after processing this streaming data, Spark needs to store it somewhere on the persistent storage, right? Maybe disk, maybe memory, maybe somewhere. Spark uses various output mode to store the streaming data. The first mode is append mode. In this mode, Spark will output only newly processed output rows since the last trigger. In the complete mode, Spark will maintain everything from start to end, from the start of the session till the end of the session. In the update mode, what Spark will be doing, Spark will only update the rows which have been new since the last trigger. Let's see if we have update mode can work here. So I'll say update, and so I'll change the code here. I'll delete this directory, and let's see if it's working. Okay, and let's do one thing. And let's run this. So in the complete, what it was doing, it was giving me everything from beginning to end. It is counting the number of words. Even when I gave the word in the last batch, it is still counting that word, updating it, or maybe showing it to us. Here, let's see. So it gave us the value. Now let's see. Let the first batch come. Okay, so first batch was empty because I haven't entered it. Let me hit enter now. So it is say now hello 1 in 7 seconds or something. Let's see. It gave hello 1, right? Now let's see if I give hello 1 again. Hello again. So what should it should give me? Since this is update, this will update the data hello 1. Now if I give hi here, it will say hello 2 and hi 1. Okay, this is what I want to prove, right? So let me stop this application. Even let me try one more time. I'll say hello now. Perfect, perfect. And I'll say hi now. So if you say hi to, it won't say show hello to us. Okay. And if I say hello, hi, it will show me both. Perfect. So now what we are seeing here, that in the update mode, it will only show the data which is getting updated. So now we have hello and hi here, right? So if I say only hi now, what it will do? It will show only hi now, hi 4 times. If I say hello, it will show hello 5 times now. In the complete mode, it was showing me everything. See, it is only showing the data which is getting updated. Now if I say hi now, it will only show the hi because we are only updating hi. Okay, so now let's stop it and let's do one thing. Let's see the behavior in complete again, so that you can compare both the modes. Okay, so now let's go here, and refresh it. Go to your checkpoint directory, delete it because I have changed the mode, and I say enter, and I run it again. Append mode won't work with your aggregation application, but I'll explain it in 2 minutes. But let's see the complete mode first. Okay, so our structure came, schema came. Now the first batch should be empty ideally. Let's see. Or maybe it will read all the data. I'm not sure how it's working. Let's see. So it's waiting for some result. Okay, so for first, it didn't give anything. Let me write hello and hi both. It will give in maybe in 5-6 seconds. Let's see. Hello, hi, 1-1. We are good. Now, when we say hello again, since this is complete mode, it will give us hi 1 and hello 2. Perfect. And if I give hi again, it will give me hello 2 and hi 2 again. Okay. So what we came to know, that if we talk about complete mode, it maintains the state, obviously, from start of the session to end of the session. At the same time, it will give me the result which are previous to this current operation, or the from the previous batch, right? So this is how complete mode and your update mode will work. Now let me do one thing. Let me show append mode. This will fail, but let's run it. What it will tell you that append mode is not applicable with your aggregation function, and I'll explain why. It's a common sense thing, but Spark don't trust people like us, so it will do a lot of things for us. Let's see. So it will fail and it will tell you, okay, but it won't tell you the reason. Now I'll explain it. First, let it fail. So it gave us, okay, perfect, it failed. So what it says, append output mode is not supported for streaming aggregation on the streaming data frames. Okay, let me copy this and let me explain it to you. So now, when we are doing aggregation, so what we're doing when we give, let's say both the modes. So when update and append, right? Sorry, update and complete. In update mode, when we are saying hi and hello, it was giving hi 1 and hello 1, right? And it is maintaining this state somewhere, and here it will give you the same thing, hello 1, hi 1. Now if we give, this is the first batch, in the second batch if I give hi, in the update mode what it will say, it will only give hi comma 2. Here it will give hello comma 1 and hi comma 2. If I give hello again here once, it will give me hello comma 2, but here it will give me hello 2 or hi 2. This is how your update and complete is working. Now if we go for only append mode, what append mode says, that only give me the new rows, only give me the new rows. Ideally, let's forget about this aggregation. If we only say give me the words, give me only the words, let's say it's working for us. Let me prove this for you. In fact, let me explain that thing which I started. So in append mode, it will only give us new rows which are current to the batch, and I'm telling that, okay, give me the full aggregation. I am contradicting myself. I'm saying your mode is append, you have only new rows into your state information, but I'm at the same time I'm asking, give me the number of words which have occurred during the session. Spark says, guys, please improve your instructions, give me instruction which are in sync. How can I count the number of words if I don't have that session information into my state directory or my state checkpoint directory? Because you have given me append mode and you are doing aggregation. So for aggregation, obviously I need to know the previous data. And since you have given me append mode, how can I have the previous data? So Spark says, guys, I cannot do it. Their append mode is not supported when there's streaming aggregation. Simple, right? So now this is good. Now let's see how append mode works. Okay, so to do that, let's do one thing. Let's not do any aggregation, right? And let's not do an aggregation first. I don't want this aggregation, and I just want to explode it, right? I just want to explode it. So let's say we have only words here. So words is the data frame, and let's comment this line as well. We don't want this line. We already know the schema. And let's say if I pass this line here, data frame, I just want to print it. Will it work? Let's see. Control S. Refresh this. Go to checkpoint. Delete it. Okay. And now run it. Let's see. I'm not sure whether it works because I'm not sure how it will see explode, but let's see. Let's open it here. So the first, if it works for the first batch, it should work. Let's wait. So I'll say hello, hit enter. Let's see why it's not working. 2 minutes. Localhost. Okay, so it worked, right? So it is taking time, but let's, since it is working, I do not need to go to there. Now, if I give hi again, so what it should do, see now, what it is doing, it's only giving me the new rows which are new to the batch. If I give, it will just give me hi, 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 this like. If I give hello again, it won't even care what is there previously. See, this is how append will work. And since, let's say, if I ask, count me the number of hellos which are in the session, it will say, guys, I only have this hello into my context. How do I know which hello do you printed before? Because you have given me appended mode. So these aggregation operations like group by are not supported with append mode. Simple, right? Let's stop this. So all the modes are very clear to you guys, right? So append mode, update mode, and complete mode. Now, there's so much to do, but I think just tomorrow we're gonna be covering triggers. Right now, what we are doing, when we are doing this and we are hitting enter, the new batch is getting triggered, right? So can we change this behavior of Spark streaming? Obviously, Spark researchers thought about it and they have given too many trigger mode to us. But right now, we are running out of the time. We'll cover it tomorrow. Okay. Tomorrow we will be covering a lot of things. We will be covering triggers in a lot of details. Then we will be covering input sources. Right now, what we are doing, we are only reading data from console, and we are writing to we are reading from socket and we are writing to consoles. But the good thing is we can read from any input source and we can write to any sync. Okay, and yeah, that's all. So let's meet tomorrow, and we'll cover all these details in a lot of details. Okay, thank you guys.